Welcome to Counsel and Community.
Hello and welcome to Counsel and Community, where legal insight meets real-life impact. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, here with Sarah Green and Brett Nelson of the Nelson Law Group team to share practical guidance on navigating legal challenges while offering tips for personal growth and financial well-being. We are excited you are here, and I am excited that both of you guys are here. Brett, Sarah, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you.
So I'll start with you, Brett. It's not a hot take to say that money is a major cause of marital issues. What are ways that people can handle their finances in a way to avoid conflict? And do you advise couples to have separate accounts?
I absolutely do not believe that couples in a marriage or committed in a marriage relationship should have separate bank accounts that they operate independently of. If you want to use separate accounts as a budgeting tool, in other words, you each allocate a certain amount of money to the other each month, then that would be one thing. But to live a financially independent life as a married person is a recipe for disaster. The best way to manage finances in a marriage is to have complete transparency. I believe that annual budgeting, where the parties sit down and review their spending from the previous year and set goals for the next year, is appropriate. And that type of opportunity to have communication with respect to what is the priority in their spending will lead to harmony in the decision making versus resentment that builds up over time because one party feels the other is either wasting money or spending money where it shouldn't be spent.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like my wife and I, all our stuff's combined, and most of the people I know don't do it that way anymore. I feel like we're dinosaurs kind of for doing that. Do you feel that there's more people that have separate accounts these days?
In the cases we see, it's probably a pretty equal mix. And in the cases where there is some type of, I don't want to use the term abuse loosely, but when there is, I would say, manipulation to the degree that it becomes abusive, the folks that are utilizing a separate account strategy, the finances are used as a means of control and manipulation of the party that is not in control of the finances. And I believe that ultimately that leads to resentment on the party who does not have access to the accounts and could lead to some further issues in the marriage that wouldn't be present if there was transparency and open communication with respect to the finances.
You work with a lot of female clients. Why is financial independence such a common blind spot, and how can women protect themselves without undermining trust in their marriage?
It's a great question. When I was younger, my wife and I had been married for 25 years. We went to a pre-Cana class, and I remember our preacher speaking to us about budgeting and all that. And quite frankly, I didn't have enough world experience to really give meaningful answers. We didn't have kids. We didn't have a lot of money. So, the questions were being asked really didn't have any contextual meaning to me. As I aged and we became in a situation where we had more money and likewise more expenses with kids, those questions became more meaningful to me. And, I'm in retrospect, I wish I would have known more when the questions were being answered, or asked of me. So, I really believe it's important that you obtain some financial literacy. And if you don't understand finances, it's your obligation to learn a little bit about it. It's not okay to sit back and be dependent on the other party to manage all the finances and to know where everything is going and where the sources of the revenue are, for a multitude of reasons. If the primary person handling the finances gets into an accident or is otherwise unavailable to manage that can cause a problem. And those problems obviously come about when the parties are in a process of separating or getting a divorce. So it's just a bad idea. It's the obligation of the parent that, or of the party that believes they're in the dark, to become informed. And if the party who is informed takes issue with that, then that's a sign of it's a big red flag, and that needs to be further explored. And as we indicated earlier in prior episodes, I would reach out to somebody who's been married for more than 10 years or a Christian-based counselor to help talk through those issues. I think you would find that some people that are controlling the money are doing it because they perceive the other parent or the other party doesn't have the discipline or self-control to meet their financial goals and it's usually has to do with saving money for retirement versus buying $2,000 or $3,000 worth of stuff on Amazon every month.
Sarah, what advice do you have for women in relationships who may not really have a handle on their finances?
I think we see this often. A lot of the time, you've got a primary earner, which a lot of time is the husband. You've got the wife, and he just kind of handles the money. And like Brett said, they don't know what the passwords are. They don't know what accounts are out there, and they don't have a way to access emergency money. And we have people come in and you want to prepare, yourself for an emergency if something were to happen, an accident or an affair or something like that, to be able to make movement if you need to. And so it's really important to have regular budget talks, know what different accounts you have, know what the balances are, check in on them. We have clients come in and sometimes a whole lot of money goes missing for a reason, some reason or another. And you need to be financially savvy and have a listing of your accounts, what is where, and understand what all those accounts are for and what they're doing for you to build wealth and that sort of thing. And also to have access to some money in case of an emergency, in case you need to make some significant life changes, so that you're not stuck. Don't ever let yourself get stuck.
I think it's a tendency for couples a lot of times to divvy up the responsibilities of the marriage. And sometimes one person's just good with money, one person's just not even like to say that they spend poorly, just that one person's just better at that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like we all kind of divvy that up. Is that something that you see a lot where it's not necessarily, it wasn't for nefarious reasons, it's just sort of happened that way?
I think it does. I think it just kind of happens that way. And who wants to pay bills and like mess with, like, who has time for that? Right. I don't think it's always for nefarious reasons. I think it just sometimes can happen. But what happens is, some kind of situation comes up, an accident or into the marriage, and people don't know where anything is or how to access it, and they have no idea. And you're more empowered to make decisions on your life if you know what resources you have available to make those decisions.
Great point.
I agree with Sarah, and I would actually say that I believe that most of the time, the roles that people take on in the household just come about, and there's not a nefarious or an improper purpose or thought behind it. It just kind of happens. But what happens, spending money, if you don't tell your money where it's going to go, it just leaves you. And similar to that, if you aren't having open communication with your spouse, somebody's going to start feeling resentment about the level of spending. So, you can't just meander through life. You have to be intentional about your relationship and your marriage. And part of being intentional about your marriage is being open and communicative about your financial circumstances. And, it could be a 5-minute overview on a monthly basis, or, having the spouse that isn't responsible for paying the bills to take a look at the spending on a monthly basis. Maybe that spouse downloads the transactions into some type of software that manages the finances, and in that way can kind of double check and not to check up on the other party, but just to make sure that everything's kosher and that there's no improper charges, and that they're aware of where the money is going. The people aren't going to find thousands of dollars to cut in their budget. I think if you go through this exercise, you're going to see that you're being your money's going away by, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. It's $10 here, $20 there, $30, and pretty soon you spent $6,000 and you have nothing to show for it. For the person that is, going in and working hard and bringing home the money, it's disheartening to work hard and come home and there's nothing to show for it. Now, if you saved the money and went on a trip to Europe and you spent the $6,000 there, at least you have those memories and you have something tangible, the relationship builder by going on a trip like that. But if you're just spending the money on stuff that you don't need, it's just a waste. And what's the goal of your relationship? What do you want to do long term? And how is your current spending patterns consistent with that long term goal?
Yeah, it's a great point too. And when you change your view of spending when you look at those transactions. Excuse me, when you look
100%.
at those transactions. I mean, when you don't see it, you're not really thinking about those $50 here, $60 there, $30 here. But when you see it and you see boom, 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 boom down the list, totally changes your perspective.
How easy has it become to buy something on the internet?
So easy.
One click. In a matter of a keystroke, you could spend thousands of dollars.
Right.
And the way we're marketed to on Instagram and the other social media platforms, it's scary how simple it is for you to spend that money. I mean, you don't even have to enter your address anymore. You buy something through Shop or PayPal, your address and everything is already entered for you. I mean,
when I buy something on Amazon, I can have something in like 10 seconds. I mean, literally, like I can just see up there.
Your door the same day,
and then you can get it the same day. Yeah. Brett, do you feel like having sort of planning for the worst, if you will, like having a solid legal or financial plan can actually strengthen a marriage rather than cause rifts?
100%. If you both know where you stand, then there's no uncertainty. And I believe, if you stand on solid ground, that breeds stability. It's unknowns that cause instability and, allow intrusive thoughts to come into our brain and control not only our emotions, but our actions. And, it's tough when people get into that fight or flight mode to really be rational and reasonable in your thought processes and your decision making. So, the more concrete people circumstances are, the better their marriage will be.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great advice. All right. Well, we've made it now to our mindful moment for today. Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
Our mindful moment today is to take a deep breath and get in a space of being really honest with yourself and ask yourself, if I had to take over my family finances today, could I do it? And if the answer is no, then list out 3 action steps that you could take in order to put yourself in a position to do that and set yourself a date to have that done by. It's really important.
Yeah, put that date on it. Give yourself some accountability, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. That's a great tip. Thank you for that. All right. Well, remember, for more insights and exclusive resources tailored to navigate life's challenges, be sure to check out the Nelson Law Group app. It's specifically designed to support you through the divorce process with expert advice and community resources. And don't forget to subscribe for more topics. Like our videos, share them. We really appreciate it. Brett, Sarah, always great chatting with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments. For more exclusive content, including helpful guides like our Divorce Care Guide, download our app today and get the support you need right at your fingertips.